as well. So we've got a number of ladies on the line, and but I'm going to go ahead and get started so that we can respect your time and cover a lot of information, and also leave a lot of time at the end to be able to do the question and answer piece of it. So first of all, I do want to say welcome. Thank you for joining our call today, or our webinar. And I actually try not to have my glasses on, but anyway. So now that I just get to talk, I don't need glasses because I don't have to read the screen anymore. Anyway, so we are going to be doing a trip to Spain next year to walk the Camino. And it's a really exciting trip. And I was actually inspired by some ladies in our church. I'm in Sandy Springs, Georgia. And my parish is St. Jude. And so there were a couple of ladies that were saying they wanted to do the Camino that inspired me to start putting this together. Although we started talking about this over a year ago. So thanks to Kathy Pinto and Lourdes Davis in particular, because they were very strongly interested in doing this. And I have to say that as I've been working on this, it looks like such an amazing trip. And I am so excited just from putting it together and working with Juan Ma on this. So first of all, there are a number of ladies from St. Jude, so welcome to y'all. And then we have some other ladies who have traveled on some of the other pilgrimages that I have organized and hosted. And so they've been on, to the Holy Land or to Ireland, and welcome to join in this call as well. And then there's some ladies I don't know yet. So welcome and thank you for joining to learn more about this. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn this over to Juan Ma to talk more about the actual experience on the Camino. He'll tell us the route and kind of what to expect. And then at the end, he'll kind of bounce it back to me. I'll get into a little bit more of the logistics with our dates and how we're gonna run this whole thing ourselves. And then we'll also do some questions. And so at the end, we'll do questions. And I've already gotten a number of questions. So we've already got a list of questions that we will address if we don't address them during the presentation. But if you do come up, you have some questions, go ahead and put them in the question box in Zoom. And Karen's going to be monitoring that, and so then we'll have a list of questions that we'll be able to access at the end. So if you have a question that we didn't cover, then we'll specifically cover it at the end of the discussion. So I'm going to turn it over to Juan Ma, and as I said, he is who we've been working with to put this together. He's with a company called Camino Ways in Spain, and that is what they do, is the Camino. And so he is going to really give us an overview. So, Juan Ma.
Thank you very much, Carol. Thank you very much, Karen, for having me today. And thank you very much to everyone really for joining. My name is Juan Ma. It's a very funny name, but it's very easy when you break it down. It comes from Juan, the name of my father's father, and Manuel, the name of my mother's father. So it merged together to become Juan Ma, okay? Nobody can pronounce it. Don't worry, nobody will. Except if you're a Spanish person. I am from Vigo originally. We will talk about my city later on today because it is actually right on the trail of the Portuguese Coastal Way, which is the route that we have chosen for your adventure. I grew up literally 1 minute away from the Camino. Every time I go home, I go running on the Camino or I go cycling in the Camino, literally because it's the best place to go. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's full of people. It's brimming with pilgrims, and it's a really, really nice atmosphere. It's most of it traffic free, so it is a really, really wonderful place to go for a run, go for a walk, and indeed go for a pilgrimage as well. So we're going to get into the details a little bit. That's pretty much everything from me. I'm not that much of an interesting guy, to be honest. So the route that we are going to do is the route from Bayona to Santiago. These are the last 126 kilometers of the Portuguese Coastal Way leading into Santiago. As probably some of you will know, or many of you might not know, but in order to qualify as an official pilgrim, in order to claim your Compostela when you get to Santiago, you need to walk at least 100 kilometers into Santiago. So that's what we have chosen this particular route. And also, with it being a holy year 2021, we wanted to kind of avoid the French way because we know that it is going to be quite busy. So if you're looking for a social experience, you're going to get it in the Portuguese coastal way. You will still meet loads of pilgrims, but if you're looking for a more tranquil, a more relaxing experience as well, and use the trip as a bit of meditation for yourself, you can also do that. It's not the sort of place where you will feel crowded. It's not the nose to tail sort of experience. It gives you a bit more air, a bit more space, a bit more headspace than it could give you, than the French way could give you, but still provides a really nice route. And the first 2 days, the scenery is, oh my God. So in total, the distance, it's, as I said, just over 126, 129 almost kilometers. And if we want to go into the next slide, we're going to talk into the day-to-day of the itinerary.
Okay, I'm working on
Okay.
it. Okay.
Just to while we pass, oh, we're here. But just to give you an overview, when people think of the Camino, they tend to think of just the French way. It's the most popular of all trails, really. It's the one that all the books will be written about, and all the series and all the movies are about. But the Camino is actually a network of trails. So people used to start this pilgrimage to the tomb of St. James the Apostle from their own homes. And from this tradition, a few routes became more and more popular. Obviously, people coming from Portugal created the Portuguese way. People coming from all other points of Europe, they merged in one point in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France, and they made their way over the Meseta and into Santiago de Compostela, which is really how the French way was born. Obviously, if you compare the size of Portugal to the rest of Europe, it's quite small. So it was only a matter of time that the French way became more popular, more used, and therefore better service than the rest of trails. Needless to say, each of them has its special features. Each of them has its own unique character and charm. But for all the reasons we listed before, we've gone for the Portuguese coastal way because we think that this is really the best option for a group, for the time you're going and for the year it is. So the first stop, the first place where you will arrive is the place that you see pictured is Bayona. It's actually the first place to have heard about the West Indies, not even America at the time. It was the first port of call in mainland Europe where Christopher Columbus moored the Santa Maria. You can actually see the replica of the boat in the port. It's actually a really nice marina, really nice port town. And you can also see the naval fortress, which I recommend everyone to go for a little walk around in the evening when you arrive, because it's well worth exploring and taking in the views of Bayona Bay and the Fies Islands, which we will see a little bit later. So after the first overnight, we will have the walk from Bayona to Vigo. I kind of included Paradise City just because I'm from there. But the technical details of it pretty much is just a 26-kilometer trek. It is very flat. And even though some people feel a bit apprehensive about the 26, 28 kilometers, depending on the different routes, it is a very flat walk, and it's one that really shouldn't present much of an issue. Here we're going to take on the seaside route because it really is the most scenic and it's the flattest one. Yeah, you can actually walk on two stunning beaches, Playa America and Panchon, and then when you approach Vigo, you will actually go through another two beaches, interspersed with the beach walking, with the beachside walking. There will be a little bit of road walking, but the scenery really makes up for the 4 or 5 kilometers that you get of interspersed roadside walking. Having said that, there's very wide footpaths. It's all very well marked for pilgrims, so it will never feel like you're on a big road. There's always big footpaths for walkers to walk on. And of course, on day two, at the end of day two, you will arrive into Vigo City. Normally, I ask people to just cheer when I say Vigo, but I'm afraid that we cannot do it with Zoom. But here you see pictured most of the characteristics of Vigo. It is a seaside city. It is the biggest fishing port in Europe. So there's quite a lot of industrial areas, as you can see there at the bottom left. It's very, very famous for shipbuilding, and it's very famous for fishing. So you will pass some areas which are really the working class areas. They are not dodgy or anything, but they are industrial, and really, if you're into shipbuilding, they are amazing. Most people are not. So just marvel at the size of the boats and the ships, and marvel at the size of the fish market, because it really is very, very big. Vigo, it's not only that, of course. It was founded by the Romans. It was important in medieval times, as I said, because of the fishing market it had. And of course, it goes without saying, it's built upon many, many hills. And from some of those hills, you can get amazing views, like the one you can see from the best bench in the world. We nicknamed it like that. It's up to you to say it. Or the mountain of Ocastro. That's where the first Neolithic settlements were found. And that's the views they had. So they chose the perfect spot to make their settlement. The Theas Islands that we were talking about, it's the island that you can see picture there on the top left of the screen. The Praia de Rodas, the big strand that you see in the middle, connecting both islands, has been named the best beach in the world by The Guardian in 2015. 5 years later, we don't hold the title anymore, but it's still an amazing beach to go to, and even to see from afar. So the day three, from Vigo to Redondela, we're gonna go onto the coastal route. This is where I actually go for my daily runs when I go home, and this is the route that I really, really enjoy. It's very bad for a Vigo man to say that the best part of Vigo is getting out, but it's actually true. Once you start leaving Vigo, you get into the Senda da Auga. It's what it's called. It means literally the water trail, and it's the old irrigation system that came from the dam into Vigo City. Nowadays, it's in disuse because obviously everything goes channeled in big pipes that go underground. But the old causeway still remains pretty much. It's a very wide path. It's all gravel or rock, so there's no cars around, and the views that you get of Vigo Bay are pretty much uninterrupted for the whole day. You're overlooking the Theas Islands in the morning, which are absolutely gorgeous. You're overlooking Rande Bridge, the bridge that you see there on the top right on the screen. It was actually the biggest suspension bridge until they built the Golden Gate in San Francisco. So quite a feat of engineering. It looks a bit dated now, but it was very, very cool at the time. And on the day three, we will, at the end of the day, after that fantastic walk, we will get to Redondela, the village of viaducts. If you see the picture there at the bottom, you can understand why. They have a couple of viaducts for the train, and it was important because of they kind of regulated the train traffic. Famous things from Redondela are the Pilgrims Albergue. It's a very, very small town, but they also put on all the effort, and they put on a show with their floral carpets, as they like to call it, for Corpus Christi. It's a religious celebration, but it's one that is enjoyed by everyone because the children get out to do these floral arrangements in the evening, just for them to be run over by a tractor with the patron saint of Redondela on top. That's a fun fact of Redondela. The day from Redondela to Pontevedra, it's probably the toughest, and it's one of the shortest. It's only 20 kilometers, but it has a couple of steep climbs. Now, when I say the toughest, I also want to remark that the Portuguese Coastal Way is the flattest of all routes leading into Santiago. The highest elevation, it's only about 340 meters, so there's no big mountains to climb, but small hills. But two of those hills actually come on this day, from Redondela to Pontevedra. In the morning, you will pass the bridge that you see on the top right, Ponte Sampaio, where it was built by the Romans, and it was the first defeat of Napoleonic troops in Europe, and we claim the spoils. So the people from Spain actually managed to fend off the attack from the French in that very bridge. They didn't let them go north of the bridge, and that's when they actually started the reconquest of the land. So loads of history, as you can see there, interspersed in the trail. So on day 4 we will get to Pontevedra in the next slide. Pontevedra is simply fantastic. We have a bit of a rivalry because the Vigo people, we have the big fishing port, we are the economy's engine, but these guys, they took all the big beautiful buildings, they got all the administration work, and the place simply looks amazing. It's very, very famous here in Europe because of the amount of eco-friendly initiatives that they are taking on. It's known as the Vila da Auga, the village of, well, the town of water, and you will see fountains everywhere. The old town, it's pretty much close to traffic, and it has all those small squares that you can see there at the bottom or even on the right picture, where you can enjoy a cafe, where you can enjoy some tapas. It is absolutely gorgeous, and all the architecture of it is really, really nice. The fun fact about Redondela, really, actually there's two, and they are on the same square. The picture on the right is the Praça da Peregrina, and they have put the Virgin Mary dressed up in the traditional St. James costume. She's the pilgrimess, so to speak, and she's dressed up with a traditional cloak and hat from St. James, and it was just there, obviously, to protect pilgrims. And also in the same square, there's a picture to a very, very famous parrot, the Loro Rabachol. It was a parrot so clever that they made him act in the local theater, but he was an anarchist at the wrong time. The owner was a really, really left-wing man, and when the parrot started saying things he shouldn't say during a dictatorship, he was immediately taken off stage. You will see the statue. There's no missing the statue of Loro Rabachol, and you need to pet him to bring you good luck. Perfect. The 5th day from Pontevedra to Caldas de Reis is 22 kilometers. There really is not much to worry about. It's pretty much rolling hills all the way through. You will crisscross the railway line a good few times because it runs pretty much parallel. Now, it's a regional train, so don't worry, there's only about 3 or 4 per day going through the actual line, but it's actually quite nice. Here, the most important bit for those who like the white wine a little bit or even a lot, you will start getting into the Alvarinho region of Galicia. This is probably the finest white wine, my personal favorite, although there's more than 5 wine regions, or Rosal, Ribeiro, etc. Alvarinho is my particular favorite. Very nice, very light, very fruity. Can't wait to have a little bit more of that in Christmas. And you will get into Caldas de Reis. Caldas de Reis, it's an old Roman spa city. That's why it's called Caldas. It literally means the hot springs. They are said to have some medicinal power. And you will see some beautiful street art. You will see the traditional church, and you will see the river that crosses it. There's a few balneariums right next to the river. There's the traditional architecture, the traditional churches, and traditional narrow streets. It's a very, very small village, but it's one with nice enough architecture. So on the 6th day, this will be almost the second to last. It goes from Caldas de Reis to Padron. We are very sorry we couldn't find brighter pictures, but this is the weather in Galicia. Sometimes it could be sunny, sometimes even in the middle of July, you could get a downpour. It could last for 1 hour, it could last for 3 hours, it could last for a full day. Hopefully, just keep fingers and toes crossed and always an eye on the forecast. The day, it's again very, very quiet, very tranquil. It consists mostly of country lanes and small little roads with barely any traffic. Keeps going through the Alvarinho wine region, and just before you get to Padron, you get one of my favorite parts of this trail. It's the Valga forest. It runs on the banks of the river Valga, not the Volga, that's in Russia. And the walk is just fantastic. It's super peaceful. The road is miles away, and all you hear really is the stream down, but just a handful of meters below you. You hear all the birds, you hear all the noises from nature, and it really is a very, very quiet, very tranquil place. It starts sloping down towards Padron as well, and it's coming on your 6th day, so it's 5 days of walking off already. So you're very, very thankful for that little haven. And on that day, we will obviously get to Padron. Padron is famous for 2 things: literature and those peppers. Okay, the most famous poetress, Rosalía de Castro, was born in Padron. The day she published her first book, Follas Novas. It is still celebrated in Galicia as a bank holiday. It's the 17th of May, and it's named the Day of Galician Lyrics. Of course, she started writing in Galician, and at a time when Galician was pretty much seen as the language of the poor and the illiterate, and she galvanized it. She gave it a meaning. She started writing poems, and the fact that she was a woman back in the 18th century made it all take a little bit of a different level. So she was the first real heroine really of Spain and of Galicia, of course. Camilo José Cela, the Nobel Prize winner in literature of 1989, was also born in Padron, and you can visit both of their houses, which are now reconverted into museums, but you can really not leave Padron without trying the thing on the right. Padron peppers, pimentos de Padron, uns pican e outros non. Literally, ones are spicy and others don't. It's a game of Russian roulette, but just a very tasty one. I had it 3 times in 2 weeks, and this time I was back home. They're delicious, but if you get the wrong one, it's got to be spicy. So make sure you always have a glass of water handy when you're having them as well. And after sleeping in Padron, we're on our last day. When we were talking about the wine region, the picture on the top left pretty much says it all. That is the trail. You're actually going through the vineyards. You're gonna go, I think we have it down for September. So if you're feeling peckish and you see loads of grapes hanging from the grapevines, don't take them. You're under risk, okay? And nobody will be there to save you from angry farmers, okay? It will be right about the time of vendimia, the grape collection, the grape harvest. So they're going to be very tempting. Keep your hands off them, okay? We don't want to get into trouble, especially with the farmers. From Padron to Santiago, you will also enjoy walking on the old Roman causeway that led pilgrims and traditional carts to Santiago. It's the one that you see pictured on the right, and the whole day pretty much is covered in gravel trails and small country lanes and very, very small roads up until you get to Santiago. When you get to the outskirts of Santiago, just like with every city, you have about 4 or 5 kilometers of urban walking. That's what we call it. But don't worry, once you see the spires of the cathedral from about 4 or 5 kilometers away, every single bit of pain you may be carrying with you, every bad thought, every blister that you may be carrying with you, it's gone. It disappears. The kilometers feel like they have been multiplied by 20, and you will feel like you're going backwards because you're super anxious to get there and you're super happy to get there. But you will be pretty much taken to Santiago. Those last 5 kilometers are, of course, super special, and at the very end of it, you will get to the Praça do Obradoiro. The Praça do Obradoiro is the main square overlooking the cathedral, and I like to call it the Titanic Square. It doesn't matter how many times you get there, it doesn't matter how many times you do the Camino, you get there and you cry. And if you don't do it, you need to get yourself checked because you have run out of heart or something like that. It is a really, really emotional moment. It goes without saying there's as many reasons to walk this Camino as people actually walking. It's a Catholic pilgrimage. It's a challenge. It's a memento for a loved one. It's everything. And whatever your reason really is just as valid as everyone else's. Obviously, Santiago is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It contains not only the remnants of St. James the Apostle, but loads of very historic convents and monasteries, like the ones you see pictured along the in the slide. And it also contains, I always like to put this very picture of the two Marias, las dos Marias. Now they don't occupy the place they used to occupy in the Alameda de Santiago in the park. It's the two ladies that you see pictured on the right. They represent me a little bit. They were two women that in the middle of Franco's dictatorship, a really, really restrictive time, they like to hang out, just both of them together with very, very bright color dresses. And they could be very, very cheeky with the students. They could be very, very cheeky with the people passing around. So you see that a lot of the Galician history kind of revolves and evolves around brave women, and it does have that little bit of a quirky side to it. So you definitely have to pay a good visit to Las Dos Marias. If you're wondering what the woman on the left is doing, I will just leave you to figure it out when you visit the statue itself. Perfect. So, as I said, whatever your reason is to walk the Camino is more than valid. I believe, Carol, we're running a little poll afterwards for the
Yeah.
different motivations.
Right. Well, and because certainly as I've researched this and worked on it, and there are different reasons. And so I did want to get your feedback. And of course, everybody has their own idea, and you have multiple reasons, but maybe your top reason. This is an anonymous poll. So if you'll join in and vote on which best fits your top reason for being interested in hiking the Camino. We'd love to get your feedback on what really attracts you to this special pilgrimage.
And of course, I could assume that there could be more than one. The first time I did it, just to give the people some time to reply to the poll and to just hear another fun fact, because I'm full of them. The first time it was to actually thank St. James. It was a promise, as we call it. We have promesas to the apostle. So if you ask something of him, then you have to deliver a Camino de Santiago. So a cousin of mine was born with the intestines a bit upside down. He had to undergo 2 life-threatening surgeries when he was only 3 months old. His dad said his dad is the biggest atheist in the world. He's the biggest communist in.
Oh, I think we lost Juan Ma. Oh, there you are.
Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so he couldn't be the most Catholic person ever. But one day, in one Sunday meal, he said, look, if he makes it through, I will walk to Santiago. And 4 years later, the kid turned up fine. He was playing football with the other kids, gifted left foot, really good player, and he was doing normal life. So we went to my uncle and said, you remember you made a promise and you have to deliver. And it's like, come on, that was no intervention whatsoever. That was thanks to the doctors. And it's like, well, you're a bit of a chicken and you have to deliver. The following day we took off. I don't know if it was the fact that he had to deliver or the fact that we called him a chicken, but still we made our first walk to Santiago at the sweet age of 13 only. But for us, you can imagine that being so close to the trail, it's pretty much like a family holiday. So yeah, really fun memories of that. After that, I did it for fun. I did it to after a breakup to find a little bit of time for myself and time to think. Then I did it just with my cousin because we had plenty of time to kill. And the last two times, I did it as a fam trip to go and visit hotels. So there's a time and there is a reason for everyone indeed.
Yeah.
And
And we did the poll and shared the results. Everybody could see it on their screen. And I think the top one was the opportunity for reflection. But again, everybody has kind of a different reason. And I think in the meantime, everyone's seen a little bit of the summaries about the route itself. And so can you talk a little bit about the accommodations?
Indeed. So the accommodations that we will provide, they are all private, standard accommodations, but they will all have the private ensuite bathroom. They are clean, they are comfortable, they are typical Camino accommodations, really. There's there's no five-star hotels or chain hotels that really you could think of in these towns because they are simply not made for mass tourism, thank God. So the type of hotel that you will find along the route, it's pretty much the hotels you see there in the bottom screen. They have a comfortable bed, hot shower, private bathroom, all the services you need. They take very good care of your luggage transfer. They make the check-in very stress-free, very seamless, because they know that time is key for a weary pilgrim. Dinners, I don't know how you guys are set up in the States, but we have dinner very early here in Ireland, normally around 6, 7. That does not happen in Spain. So the dinners are normally served around half 8, 8, 9, depending on the hotel. So if you're feeling peckish before then, guys, we are the country of pinchos and tapas. So just go out to any place, have a little drink, a water, a soft drink, glass of wine, a beer, and they will give you a little nibble just to keep yourself going until dinner time. And for this particular trip, we're going to go with standard accommodation pretty much throughout, but we will include two nice upgrades halfway through the trip and at the very end of the trip in Santiago, so that you can also rest in some comfort. You earned it. And you can recharge the batteries halfway through the trip when you're feeling probably the pinch of the second or third day.
There we go. Yeah, and so it will be nice to have those. I really like the mix of what we're doing in this because we'll have the mix of the more traditional pilgrim experience, but also a few nice touches, like you said, in the middle and at the end as well. Um, and and actually, I wanted to just cover the dates, just so you have that. And Juan might talk through the actual walk of the Camino. So if you
Mhm.
look at this list of dates, you will see we're actually going to spend an extra day, mostly because I looked at it as like, well, we don't want to get into Santiago exhausted and then get on a plane the next day. We want to have some time to actually enjoy it because it is a UNESCO city. And so on that extra day, we'll have some time just to explore on our own, but we will do a tapas tour um, to really experience some of the food and some of that area as well. So it should be a nice way to do it. In regards to the logistics of getting there, um, as we work this out, there is an airport in Santiago, but I'll tell you, it is not well served by U.S. Airlines. So the best city for us to fly into is Porto, Portugal. And on Delta, we will connect either through Amsterdam or Paris, or at least that's what the schedules look like right now. We won't have the schedule until November, but what we'll do is we'll have a group flight scheduled. And then when the group flight arrives into Porto, then we'll have a transfer for our group to Bayona, and then at the end we'll have a private transfer from Santiago back to Porto. If you decide you're going to come in early or leave late, and we can always help you with all those details, we'll just coordinate where you'll meet up to be a part of that. So how do you become a part of this experience? Just wanted to give you a little detail. You can see here with the we have an initial deposit of $600, and what you can do is register online with the link that's shown below. And when you register online, you can choose to pay either with credit card or with a check. So if you're going to pay with a check, still register online so we have you on the list and we can fit you into the list. And then you'll just mail your check after you register. Or if you are going to pay by credit card, then you register online and then just pay with your credit card. One thing I wanted to mention in regard to roommates, when you register, we actually have on the form so that you can register for yourself and say who your roommate is if you already know, and we'll cross match you. So it's not like y'all have to coordinate who's going to pay with what credit card and pay back. You don't do that. Just register individually and then refer to your roommate, and we will match that piece of things. If you want to have a roommate and you don't have one yet, we can help facilitate that. And I say facilitate because we're not going to match you up per se, but what we will do, because I think everybody needs to make sure that who they're going to room with, they get along. So what we'll do is that you can register and say, hey, I'm interested in a roommate. And so we'll take those people and we'll basically share y'all's contact information. And I might send out an email that says, Sally and Susie and May, we're here, y'all are all interested in roommates. Here's your contact information. You take it from here. And then that way y'all can schedule, you can have a cup of coffee, and then make sure everything's going to work, that, y'all, you don't want somebody that gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning with somebody else that wants to sleep till 8 or whatever. So y'all can make sure that you're going to be compatible and then let us know that you want to be roommates. So we just facilitate that. I will tell you, it has always been amazing to me on these pilgrimages. I used to worry about it. God always takes care of it in such unbelievable ways that I could tell you about sometime. So I have great faith that it will all work out. If you're looking for a roommate, we'll probably be able to make that work. Anyway, so you can register online. The flight information, as I said, won't come out until November, but I just wanted to give you a general estimate. It's hard to tell right now what it will be, but that kind of gives you a perspective of that. Now, this will obviously require some training, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about that, but we will have some training guidelines that'll be provided. I will tell you, I am in horrible shape. Like me walking 3 miles in the neighborhood, yeah, I'm done. So I have a lot of training to do, which my kids are glad it's going to force me to get in shape. So we will be providing training guidelines and ways to really get yourself in shape for this. I know we have some ladies on the line that are in really great shape, but other ones who maybe like me that need a lot of work. So we will provide those guidelines. Also, I have my oldest son, Johnny, hiked the Appalachian Trail, which is 2,100 miles, and the Pacific Crest Trail, which is 2,600 miles. So he is very familiar with all this stuff. So what we're going to do is a session in November just talking about equipment. Not that we need a whole lot of equipment. And actually, Juan Ma, we need to talk about how that the luggage thing works. But you don't need a ton of equipment, but obviously really good shoes and some other things are going to be helpful. So he'll give us some guidelines and suggestions for that. I think one of the key things is you're going to want to get your shoes now, or, at Christmas time, so that you can be walking in them, for 9 months before you actually take the trip. The other thing is late spring, we'll do a tips and preparation session that Johnny will lead as well, just to give you some ideas of, even in the course of your walking day, what are some ways to take care of yourself, keep your feet happy, that type of thing. The other thing we're going to do is there is an app called the World Walking app. And so we're going to do a challenge group. So amongst ourselves, we can kind of encourage each other and track our miles and train together to prepare for the trip. So we should have some fun with that as well. So any questions before, and we actually do have a list of questions, but Juan Ma, before we do that, because I just mentioned the whole thing about equipment. So let's talk about the way that the luggage handling works, because I sure as heck don't want to be carrying a big old backpack on my back. So tell us how that part of the arrangements works.
So indeed, we take the weight off your shoulders, literally. So basically, we take care of your big bag, and you will only need to walk with a day pack. You can bring your suitcase or bring a big rucksack with you, which we will bring forward. So you can bring everything you need in that bag, such as your boots, all your clothes for the different days. If you want to bring a small hair dryer, don't worry, there it will be everywhere. But if you're apprehensive or if whatever you need to bring, don't worry, you don't need to carry it with you all the time. You can bring up to a 20-kilo bag that we will carry every day forward for you. You only need to drop it off at the reception of the hotel before 8:30 a.m. and it will be at the hotel where you finish the day before 4 p.m. Generally is around 11 a.m. but we always say up until 4 p.m. because the transporter can have a bit of a delay or it can have a different route on that day. So, but you will have it right after lunchtime, really. It's roughly around the time that you get into the town. So you can carry a day pack, and obviously in the day pack you need to bring the daily essentials: water, food, your camera, a little poncho if it's wet, a bit of sunscreen and a hat if it's sunny, and maybe an extra pair of socks. That would be my tip, just because if it gets wet, it's very, very important to keep your feet dry. As you said before, Carol, it's super important to get your shoes worn in, because otherwise you're calling for a blister to happen. And it's very, very important to keep the feet dry as well, to keep the blisters at bay. You probably heard the word blister more times in 40 minutes than in the last 2 months. They happen. Doesn't matter how much care you take of your feet, they do happen. Also bring a blister pad. Here it goes again. Kit, just to help you if you do eventually get them. Everybody gets them, so it could be very, very strange if during week a group of people don't get at least one. You could be blessed, but they do happen. So do make sure, as you said, Carol, that your shoes are well worn in. It's not a particularly technical trail. Obviously, a light hiking boot could be ideal. If you have something that is light and waterproof, it's the best thing you can carry. But if you don't have that already, or if you arrive there and you only have trainers that are well worn in, look, trainers might do the trick better than the best hiking boot that you bought yesterday, because they need to be made for your foot.
Right. Well, perfect. Well, and so we've had a couple of questions come in through the chat, and so we'll address those. But I actually had some questions that came in ahead of time, so I wanted to go ahead and cover those. And so, Juan Ma, I'll let you start because the first few are for you. About, I think it's all kind of tied together about, how far we have to walk, the training, and like for those of us who are a little older, 60, 70, 80, because we do have that range of folks that are also interested in doing this. Like, how doable is this? What is it like in regards to the distances and such?
Yeah, well, I like to start with my famous sentence: the Camino is a 10% of physique and the 90% pure stubbornness. Okay, you will see people of all shapes and sizes and ages in the Camino, struggling, flying, walking it, chatting away, gasping for breath. You will see them all along the Camino, but you will see them all as well in Santiago. So how far do we have to walk each day? Generally, just the rule of thumb, 25 kilometers. That is the typical Camino walk. in this particular one, we don't even go that far. It's one with fairly short stages. You have days of 28, 20. You have only 2 days over 25, which is the
Okay.
first and the last.
Okay, and so for those of us who don't speak kilometers, I'm going to interject
There you
here.
go.
So the average is 9 to 13 miles.
9 to 13, yeah.
And then we've got one day that's 15 and one day that's 17. So that's just the average.
Mhm.
So, okay.
Yeah, and the rest of them, they are below average, really. So it's not a particularly tough trail. As I said before, the flattest route, only one day exceeds the average of 25 kilometers. So it really is not a tough trail. As we said,
Right.
as I said, there was some days are longer, some days are shorter. The first day is 28, and the second day is almost half of it. It's 15. So it varies really. It depends a little bit on where the towns are located and how much hills you have to cover. But as I said, not a particularly challenging trek.
So,
Mhm,
oh, I'm sorry, because I was going to ask the question. Like, so let's say there's one day I'm just having a bad day and I
mhm,
can't walk the whole thing.
mhm.
So what happens?
So thankfully, also the Portuguese Coastal Way, it's one that is very, very well serviced. You are always very, very near a town or a small village or a road where you really can be picked up and taken to the next accommodation. If you're feeling from the very beginning of the day, look, this is impossible, I can't do it, or I'm reading with blisters and I can't walk anymore, or look, I twisted an ankle and I can't keep going, don't worry, just skip the day, get to the next town, and as you saw, there's plenty of things to see and do in each of the towns, so that will keep you entertained for the day. There's really no point on pushing yourself through an injury because you're not going to enjoy it, and at the end of the day, it's also your holidays. So just do the
There you go.
sensible thing. You can skip it. You're going to walk with a guide, and the guide will be walking mostly with the people that are struggling a little bit or having a tougher time. So if it comes to the point where you have to drop it all off and you say, look, guys, it's tools down, it's too much for me, the guy can always give you a hand to find a place where you can be picked up, a place obviously that is accessible by car, and that you're taken to the next accommodation safely. Taxis are inexpensive in Spain, so even just to jump a full day could be about 20-25 euro. Very, very cheap. And if you're halfway through the trail, it might only be 10-15 euro.
Great. Well, and um, so you just talked about the guide, and I meant for us to talk about that a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
because with our group, um, we're probably going to fill up pretty quickly. So we'll have 2 private guides with our group who'll be able to take care of us. I got to tell you the thing I like the best when Juan Ma and I were working on all this. So here's the coolest thing that the guides do, because they're with us every day and they give us a briefing at night. And, they're kind of going between everybody during the day, making sure everybody's okay. But the coolest thing they do is when we get to Santiago and it's time to get in line to get your Compostela, we don't have to get in line. The guides go and do that for us. Okay. And clearly I am demonstrating my laziness, but it's mostly because I want to go sit at the little cafe and have a glass of wine to celebrate. And so the guide will go get in line for us. And we have our little passport that we get stamped every day, and they will go and upon completion, stand in the hour-long line so we don't have to. So I think that part's pretty cool.
So
So,
you can actually see one of the passports here as decoration in my bedroom wall. So
oh,
that's how
cool.
much it means to me.
That is neat. That is neat. Okay, so another question is about a roommate. I think I've already covered that one. So, Juan Ma, in terms of, well, and I'm going to say this now while I'm thinking of it, because before we do the food and water, because a question came in about how do you go to the bathroom, which probably ties into the water and food one. So go ahead and tell
It
us
ties
about
in
that.
fairly well. It ties in fairly well. Guys, you're walking in nature, and PP nature, it's more than likely going to have to happen. Okay, so always bring a little packet of tissues with you. Just if nature calls and it calls hard and it calls insistently, if you have to go, you have to go. You will mostly walk through very quiet areas, very remote areas. So you might have to find yourself a spot to do your stuff privately, but there are plenty of places to stop, to have lunch, to get food, to get drink, and also to use the toilets. It's very, very common to use the toilets along the way, even if you're not a customer of the establishment or of the cafe or the restaurant or the place that you find. It's very, very common, and you will be more than welcome to use the toilets because you're pilgrims, and in the Camino you have like a special status.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at it, it looked like there are enough breaks along the way that you plan accordingly and you're good.
Yeah, yeah. I could say that the longest that you go without a single break, it's probably when you leave Vigo or when you are arriving into Santiago, which is about 5 kilometers. I think everybody can hold it for an hour or two,
Yep, there we go. We'll plan accordingly.
or not. If not, just walk faster.
Yeah, there you go. All righty, cool. So the so I've had some folks ask about sharing the information, beyond the parish that we're in or beyond Atlanta, and definitely, I mean, we're opening this up to women who would like to take this pilgrimage. We've definitely had a number of ladies who have shared it, like, with their sisters or their cousin or best friend from home or whatever, and it's fine. You don't have to be from the Atlanta area to join us. So that part's okay. And then also, how many spots are available? So the way that this is going to work, we're going to have right around 30 ladies in the group, 30, 32. And and so that allows us as a group to be able to kind of keep the cost low, because we've got the shared cost of getting to and from Porto. And also we have our private guides, and so that covers them. But I think one of the cool things too about this is that, so as a group, we'll come together at night, like for dinner. But the rest of the time, you really have a whole lot of flexibility and independence. And during the walk of the day, like, even if everybody left at the same time, you know, pretty quickly everybody's walking at their own pace and breaks into singles or pairs or just small groups of folks traveling along. So you have the opportunity to have that quiet and solitude, if that is what you're looking for, or the camaraderie, if that's what you're looking for. So, but I think we're going to have a really nice group based on the ladies that I know that have joined this call. I think it's going to really be amazing. But anyway, so that's how many spots we have. I do think there's a lot of interest, so I think we may fill up rather quickly. But anyway, so, and then there was a question that just came in regards to into money. Someone who doesn't use a debit card, so credit cards and cash amounts. And Juan Ma, so, because when I was reading about it, it sounded like some of the smaller places even there won't take credit cards, so we'll need to carry cash.
Yeah, not
Definitely
much
a small
though.
town.
I could say that walking with 30, 40 euro a day is fine, and you will find days where you don't spend even that much. You will have ATM machines in every single town, and the towns are ridden with them. It's not like you have one per bank. No, you might find 3 or 4 per bank in the towns, even in the smaller ones. ATM machines are all over the place. But Spain and Galicia, they still do work with a lot of cash, with hand money. So
Right.
it's changing now a bit because of COVID,
Yeah.
just like everything else. But yeah, no, do carry some cash with you, because most of the time, the best places to have your coffee and the best places to have your soft drink, they don't take cash because they are tucked away with
They
some
don't take credit
fantastic
cards.
view. No, they won't. So
Right.
they could only take cash.
Gotcha. And I didn't mention this before, but with the link that I had for the registration, that also is our webpage that has the whole list of inclusions, because we didn't go through all that here, but we do have breakfast included every day. We have dinner included most nights except for 2. because we want to give you a chance to go out and explore. Since we're over in Spain, you got to go try some things on your own. So basically, you will be paying for your lunch each day, and it's not that costly to pay for lunch, but just want to be prepared for that.
No, even sit-down lunches, which are the menú del día or menú del peregrino, the pilgrim's menu or the day menu, they could go as little as €9. Very, very cheap, and you get a 3-course meal for that. So it's actually really, really cheap. If you fancy like getting a sandwich in a shop or something like that, you could be paying €2, €3 even. And it's pretty much up to you. If you want to have a big feast, well, off you go. But remember that you have to walk after that. So you have to carry the extra weight.
Yep. There you go. And a question came in about using your frequent flyer points. That's totally fine. When the flight schedule finally comes out and we will offer group air, you don't have to get group air from us. You can like basically book the same flights and just do it with your points. Or if you want to, maybe you want to combine this with another trip, we can definitely help you do that so that you can use our group air, which tends to be priced a little bit better, and we can do a deviation so that we can get the advantage of our group air pricing, but still give you a deviation along the way. So, and let's see. Oh, and a question did come in about travel insurance. And we will be offering travel insurance, which we definitely encourage because you are going to be walking a little bit more physical than you might in other trips. And so just a real quick thing about travel insurance, because I know in the current environment, people are like, what covers what? Pandemics are an exclusion out of regular travel insurance. So we will be offering a group deluxe policy and a cancel for any reason. So the group deluxe policy will cover you if you have to cancel before, if you get ill before you leave, or you fall down the stairs and fracture your back, or have a wreck on the way to the airport. That's going to be covered under group deluxe. But group deluxe does have an exclusion for pandemic. For the cancel for any reason, that refunds your money 75% of your non-refundable cost. And you can cancel for literally any reason. You just woke up and said, I don't want to do this anymore. You can cancel and be refunded at 75%. So that is any reason whatsoever that you can cancel for. So, and we'll provide more information about that. But while we were doing this, I figure we will cover it there. So let me see if there are any other questions that we need to take a look at. Okay, question about the group air, about upgrading to business class or economy comfort. We can definitely help you with that. Yeah, we actually make a separate reservation, but we can usually do it with a whole lot better pricing than what you would see on delta.com. So we can definitely help you with that as well. So I think that's the end of our questions. I think we've covered everything. Holy cow, we spent an entire hour doing this, but that's because it's an amazing trip and we wanted to give everybody all the information. So thank you all.
Sorry, if you put me to talk about my backyard, I get carried away. So
no. It was great from what you covered, and let's see if there's anything else. No, I think we've got it. Juan Ma, thank you so much for joining us and really giving your perspective. I love that you're from Vigo, and so we can like straight from that area get your perspective on exactly what we can expect on the trip. And so thank y'all everyone for joining. I appreciate it. If you think of any questions after this is over, you'll there's a link in your webinar invitation, so you can just shoot us a question, and we would love to have you join us. And let's see, I think in the chat we'll put the link once again to the website so that you can register if you'd like to join us. And again, send me some questions if you have any, and hope to see a lot of you there. I think this is going to be a really fabulous trip. And again, Juan Ma, thanks for your perspective on this. Thank y'all everyone for joining. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.
All right.